doing? It is Wednesday, the 25th of June, 2025. My goodness, time is flying. And we are now living in a reality in which yesterday, President Trump imposed a ceasefire on Israel and Iran. And I say that having chosen my words very carefully because he did impose it. And why he imposed it and what it means, we'll get into in this video. But the bottom line, if you don't want to wait for the end, the bottom line is that it's actually a disaster for Israel. It's also, by the way, a disaster for the United States and, frankly, the free world. And more to the point, also a disaster for the people in Iran who are not part of the Iranian dictatorship, or the Iranian dictatorship. But dictatorship is also a right way to say it, because that's what they are. So, yesterday, around 7 a.m. Israel time, 7:30 Iran time, a ceasefire was supposed to go in effect after 12 days of fighting between Israel and Iran, pockmarked by one day of American activity in which the U.S. dropped 14 bombs on 3 sites at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. By the way, why is it that people, mostly on the alt-right, can't even say Isfahan correctly? The amount of times I've heard people mispronounce that in the last week is frankly hilarious, and it's mostly been people on the alt-right, but some on the left too, to be fair. Isfahan, it's not that hard. Anyway, those 3 key nuclear facilities were definitely a threat because Iran was making nukes in those facilities. They were making the elements necessary to make nukes, nuclear weapons. So Israel viewed it as critical to make sure that those facilities were destroyed or damaged significantly to the point where they could not be used. And the United States agreed, and Trump agreed, and sent his bombers to destroy them. The thing is, with the amount of pushback he got from his alt-right wingnuts, he got cold feet. Oh no, I'm going to lose the popularity among my crazy base. And remember, he wants a couple of things. He wants, one, to win a Nobel Peace Prize. Like, he's actually out for that. It upsets him he hasn't won one. Well, 2, and of course, normally you should make peace between people before you win a peace prize, and he has not achieved making peace between people, as much as he liked to pretend that he does. Right? India and Pakistan don't have peace between them. Oh, I prevented a nuclear war there. No, you didn't prevent the nuclear war. They were never going to have a nuclear war. You didn't actually do anything. Okay? India denies it flat out. They would never have you be a mediator to negotiate between you and Pakistan unless they didn't have any other option for some weird reason, which they have plenty of options. Pakistan claims you did because Pakistan, you are a patron to Pakistan. The United States is Pakistan's patron saint, and keeps Pakistan going. So Pakistan will say whatever you want just to keep the money flowing, right? And to let Pakistan keep its nukes, even though they're under American lock and key. In case you didn't know that, America controls Pakistan's nuclear weapons. If you did not know that, well, get with the times. They've controlled them since about forever. So when people worry about Pakistan having nukes, well, it's just they're just literally technically Pakistani nukes under American restrictions. They cannot be used without American permission. So why is that? Well, because first of all, America literally has the keys that control them, like the physical keys. Second of all, because America pays for that, for the Pakistani nukes to be maintained and all that. Thirdly, the reason they do that is they loaned money to Pakistan, and in exchange for that loan, they took control of those nukes. This was many, many years ago. So that's what that situation is. So now, back to the Iranian situation. So Trump wants a peace prize, but he also wants to not lose support from his base, which, to be honest, I don't understand why he cares. Why should he care about his base? Right? I mean, he doesn't care about anybody. He's not up for re-election, unless he thinks he is. So the only reason he could possibly care about his base is because he wants to, what? Get reelected, option number one, which is not constitutional, but that doesn't mean he won't try. He's not exactly a fan of the Constitution that he said he wants to take apart. He wants to do away with pieces of it, right? And number two, he wants to keep his legacy going by having people like him, more MAGA type people or whatever, win elections after he's done being president. And he doesn't want to lose big in the midterms. Okay? That's the only reason that he would care about his quote-unquote base. But his base is going to vote for whoever the MAGA candidate is anyway in the midterms, because it's not him. He's not a candidate. They don't need to vote for him. So there's literally no reason for him to give a damn about his base, except he's so sensitive. His ego is so sensitive that he can't stand being unpopular with half of his base. Oh no, 15% of the country doesn't like me. Remember, MAGA is like 30% of the country, right? Which is not an insignificant amount, but it's clearly not anything close to a majority of the country. I'm talking about MAGA, like not Republicans. People, majority, or a majority of, the most amount of votes that were won by any candidate, right? I'm talking about specifically the MAGA people who walk around with the red hats and all that shit, right? That's 30% of the people. So if half of them don't like the fact that he interfered in a foreign war. Sorry, but where do you think wars happen? In your own country? There's only been one war in America inside of the United States during the time of the United States. It's called the Civil War. All right, and maybe we never have another one. And technically, that was a foreign war too, because technically the South seceded, which meant, yes, it was a civil war insofar as the North perceived it to be one. But insofar as the South perceived it to be, no, that was a war against a neighboring country. That was two separate nations fighting a war. It was not one country at war with itself. From the point of view of the South. And guess where a lot of his MAGA people are? In the South. And they view old Dixie as, yeah, that was a separate country. Or that was the real United States. And the North were the traitors because they went against the South. Even though that's obviously not what happened. The South seceded. Anyway, so back to the Iran thing. So Trump wants his Nobel Prize. Trump wants to appease his right-wingers after appeasing the neocons. He wants to appease the extreme right that are against intervention in foreign wars, which is crazy because, again, that's where wars happen, on foreign soil. And, by the way, what did they even do? They literally flew over a country that Israel had cleared for them. They met literally zero resistance. Their stealth planes were literally not even visible to the radars of the Iranians. You understand that? They weren't even visible. The radar footprint of a B-2 bomber, I don't know if you've ever seen those things, they're pretty freaking massive. The radar footprint of a B-2 bomber is the size of a hummingbird. In other words, it's not detected by a radar. Because it doesn't detect things that small. The radar footprint of the stealth fighters that accompanied the B-2 bombers is also tiny. That's why they're stealth. And the radar footprint of the F-14s, F-15s, and F-16s that may or may not have accompanied those stealth planes, okay, they could see them, but they weren't right next to them, and they're flying in different ways so as not to be making the stealth bombers a target. And by the way, they don't have much radar left there, right? So they could barely detect anything if those radars were even anywhere in the flight path between where they entered the country, where the targets were, and where they exited the country. Right? There's actually, I don't know of any evidence to suggest that they even saw the United States planes flying overhead. They had no idea that the U.S. was flying overhead and that it hit those targets and that it left the country, just like that, in and out. So they were flying over a completely cleared zone that Israel had cleared. And in the end, they didn't provably destroy everything inside. And it is very likely that some or all of the actual enriched uranium was moved out of those sites beforehand, because it was very obvious that either Israel or the United States was going to do something to destroy those sites. It was very obvious, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, that means, just like I said days ago, that Israel would have been better off not having the United States hit those sites, as great as it was. Look, as long as the regime stays in place, then yes, getting rid of those sites was key. But had Israel not had the United States, had the United States not bombed those 3 sites, then Israel would have would have kept up the pressure on Iran. And by today already, because of events that happened in the last few days, by today already, we could be seeing the people of Iran overthrowing their dictatorship. Literally, they could be doing it right now. They might have even been doing it yesterday. I say hello to you. I see you and I say hello. What does that say? Hello, I'm what? Irma? I can't see what that says. But anyway, I hope you're doing well. Had Israel not had the assistance of the United States 3 days ago, had the U.S. just stayed out of this situation entirely, okay, Israel could have kept hitting Iran without the right-wing wussies. And that's what they are. They all talk tough. Oh, America, America, America. And they shoot their guns. Second Amendment, America, America. But then the moment we say, yeah, we're going to a war. No, don't go to a war. We don't want to go to war. We're scared of war. You bunch of idiots. No, we don't have any interests over there. Oh, really? You don't have any interest in the Persian Gulf? Really? You don't have any interest in what happens in Iran? Really? Do you understand that when the Iranians chant their death chants, the Iranian cult members, right, of the dictatorship, what is the first thing they say? They say death to America first. And they mean it. Death to America. You're the big Satan. We are the big Satan, right? And death to Israel. We are the little Satan. And then they also say death to the UK. They actually say the chant in the proper order is death to America, death to the UK, death to Israel, death to the infidels and hypocrites, which if you're not a member of their death cult, means you too. No matter who you are, no matter where you live, if you're not a member of their death cult, you are one of the infidels and hypocrites. Right? Even if you're a Shia Muslim, by the way, they will off you too. Right? And there's, by the way, there's hundreds of Shia Muslims living right here in Israel. You know how much they care about them? They don't. If they had a nuclear weapon, they made it very clear, they would use it to destroy Israel, kill every Jew, as well as every other Israeli, as well as every other Arab who isn't Israeli, and every other person who isn't Israeli that happens to be killed by that bomb. They do not care. They do not care. They've said it many times. And after they destroy Israel, what do you think they're going to come after? The United States. Weapons they're developing, and that they've already developed, that can hit Europe. So if you think you're in America and you think you're safe, just because the Iranians are only focused on Israel right now, you're deluding yourself. The Iranians want to destroy Israel and the UK and all of Europe, and then they want to destroy the United States, and then they want to destroy any other place in any other country where the majority of the people do not believe in their death cult. And guess what? That's the vast majority of the world. And you know why they want to do that? They want to do that because they actually want to bring about the apocalypse. Do you know why? Because they believe that only when every single last Jew on earth is dead and every single last heretic on earth or infidel on earth or hypocrite on earth is dead, then and only then will the last or the 12th, whatever it is, 12th Imam or whatever, come back. The Mahdi or whatever they call him. Okay? 12th descendant of Muhammad, who they believe is hiding. Okay? They believe that the 12th descendant of Muhammad, I'm not even joking, that's what they actually believe, that he's hiding. Just like people who are messianic believe that the Messiah will return, well, they believe that the 12th Mahdi, or whatever they call him, I believe that's how you pronounce it, the 12th main important descendant of Muhammad, like 12 generations after Muhammad,